Afternoon. I'm Chris the Contemplative, and this is my broadcast, doing a special broadcast on the horror of what happened in Texas. And I really, the more I think about it, am just very disappointed at how many times people can fall for the same trick, the same talking points. Gun control is going to solve everything. Another big program. We need more programs, and that's going to eliminate evil. And all of the childish liberal cheerleaders do what they do best without, they what they do is they fail to use anything between their ears. Those neurons aren't really firing as they used to, and they just repeat what was said in 2017 and the previous mass shooting eras, 2020, and we had all of these same talking points brought out, deconstructed by people of common sense, and then they just keep coming back at it. Every time this happens during an election cycle, there seems to be an uptick in mass shootings, and suddenly we need to take away all the guns. It's getting pretty old, to be honest. And I'm not going to go into rehashing why gun control cannot stop these things. I'm going to really open things into a different light as to the fact that we're really avoiding a serious main factor behind these monsters who are showing up in society. Okay, we really are seemingly avoiding. I think it's because we don't want to go there. I don't think we want to go there because we created this monster. We are to blame. Now, how is that? Well, a lot of people would agree that no man is an island, but they don't really take it very far. They usually just say, be nice to other people and be kind. But the fact remains is that for the longest time, we have pushed any sort of idea of objective truth out of the Western Hemisphere and Western civilization as we know it. And we have a bunch of people, a lot of people are talking about there's a rise in narcissists, and we don't know why. There's so many narcissistic people. Well, why are you so shocked? We have encouraged people to go along with whatever thought comes to their mind as truth. That is, we have an inherently sociopathic culture we have created. And we don't want to take the blame because in our rabid, rebellious arrogance against any sort of ideas about objective truth, including Christianity, real Christianity, we have completely opened the door towards evil. And then we're going to sit around and wondering, well, we denied evil and we don't know what to do about it. So if you're looking for a big factor as to why these things are happening, I'd say we have to look in the mirror. And everyone's trying to, use the whole government will fix things, and that's been completely debunked. I mean, we've already been through this. The gun control thing has already been completely debunked. I was going to say, is it the answer? And as I was preparing for the show, it's complete clean sweep as to why it isn't the answer. I can not find any good reasons as to why it's the answer. The only caveat I will give is the fact that in many cases it seems the FBI is dropping the ball, and a lot of these shooters throughout the years were not properly investigated. They were on the watch list and they weren't really looked into. But I mean, even if you want to say that, I linked in the description an article which says that many mass shootings were done by illegal guns. So I guess, you could say, well, maybe there should have been better background checks, and I'm not against that. But we all know that where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. So I don't understand how people can be this stupid as to continue. It's just been such a joke. There just seems to be this group of completely destroyed brains, TV zombies, and their cult leaders, the TV anchors. And as of this month, I've seen about 5 different trends come and go, and these people that have no sense of self-awareness or attention span, who might be, experiencing early stage dementia for all I know. I mean, sometimes I wonder if the current resident in chief is a physical representation of what has become of the average liberal mind. But we've gone through so many trends constructed by the media. No one goes back and looks at, did they lie? Do they have integrity? They just go along with whatever the trend is. It's the current thing. So we have this issue. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're one of those people, you can just keep doing this and over and over again. And you yourself are part of the problem. You yourself are part of this mentality that leads to these guys doing something like this, because you don't have a sense of objective truth. You have lost yourself in the cult of mass opinion, of people over truth. That is what's happened. So I don't want to hear it from these same lemmings who say we need to take away all guns. If you fall into that, you have completely lost your sense of rational thinking. And that is my practical take on it. Okay. I'm not going to be talking about this the whole time, but it's ridiculous. Okay. There's so many reasons as to why gun control doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't even work in terms of stopping crime. We have the issue with Chicago, right? Chicago is a wreck and it's a gun-free zone, and there's still shootings happening. Lori Lightfoot has completely dropped the ball in Chicago, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows gun-free zones don't work, and they still seem to just bring about more crime most of the time. So there's that. There's also the fact that even in extreme gun control zones, like in Western Europe, there's been truck attacks, there's been bombings, there's been serial knife attacks. And you'd be surprised if you actually know how dangerous a knife can be within an unarmed populace. You can do an actual equivalent amount of damage with a knife, because it's quiet. People don't usually know what's going on for a while. And if you have an accomplice, you could potentially kill 20 people within a crowded area. With a gunshot, people will actually run. With a knife, you could actually kill a lot of people until people start getting what's going on. So, yeah, I'm not here to talk about it that much, but there's definitely an issue with people's awareness, of people looking critically at these things. Turn off the mainstream media already. Learn to think before this mentality kills you. It will literally kill you. This is the kind of thing that creates cults and situations like Brave New World in 1984. So that's my thoughts on, does it work on a practical level? But I've been thinking about this. And so, yes, I can say that gun control, with the exception of maybe better background checks, is not the answer. And you can leave your opinion in the comments if you want. I can say that, but again, it seems as if people are avoiding a much deeper issue. And that's the issue that we have this new world of complete indifference to right and wrong, complete indifference to forming someone in love and truth. And I think it's time to wake up from that. I think it's time to realize that the institutions we have been raised in are godless, but I don't just mean godless as in they don't pray, but they truly are upside down. They are topsy turvy. They have twisted our own meaning and purpose in life into something either indifferent or very selfish. Who are these people that I have, these mass shooter guys? Who are these people, um, who you see to the left of me? Okay. So if you really look into the backgrounds of these people, right? You have the Uvalde shooter, this monstrous teenager who shot up the elementary school. Now, these two guys here are more to the point as to what their motivation was. But even here, with what happened in Texas, even here, you can, if you look into his background, you see a sociopath. You see someone, if the story is complete, I don't know the full story, but from what I see from the story, you have someone who has completely deadened their conscience. You don't have someone who does not have their wits about them. You have a premeditated, cold monster. This is evil, okay? This is evil that you're looking at. It is not, someone that's misunderstood. This is someone who has no sense of humanity and no sense of love in their heart. They are gone. Okay. And you just have to wonder, what is this cultural soil that we have that would lead someone to never question these kinds of motivations, or to believe that they are in the center of the universe, they are the center of the universe, and that they are so godlike that they can take innocent life whenever they want. Well, let's look at a very similar thing that's going on, which is the Roe versus Wade thing. Now, regardless of where you stand on that, the statistical truth is that most abortions are for convenience. They are because the mother does not want the child, it's inconvenient for her, and because she made a poor decision to sleep with someone. And even if you say, well, her convenience, who are you to say that the baby is more important than her convenience? You are still agreeing that you're saying that convenience and comfort is more important than a human life, potentially. Even if you say, oh, the unborn baby isn't a human being, which is completely debunked, okay? The person who began that Roe versus Wade case has been debunked and regrets their decision. They are completely pro-life now. So we have these inherent formative ideas put into people that that you are in the center of the universe and everything is your oyster. People are your stepping stones. Okay, this may not make everyone a monster, but it certainly opens the door to it. And then you have other things like what's going on culturally, right? With Johnny Depp, right? You have this egomaniac who thinks she can just get away with everything. And why? Because she decides so. She just decides, well, I'm just going to be abusive and I'll make up some stuff to try to start a false equivalency. So that's part of the divorce culture. Now, this isn't really a normal case, but that's another example. No fault divorce. Okay. You have this idea that if you get tired of someone, you can break their heart, ruin the children, off you go into the wild blue yonder, and hey, whatever makes you feel good. Okay, so this is socialized narcissism. But no, we need to take away the guns, right? It's the guns' fault. The guns are what makes, if you look at a gun, you start to have crazy eyes, you start to believe that you can just become a god and take over the entire world, or maybe kill a bunch of people at willy-nilly. That's how things work, right? So um, uh, these things are not really mental health issues. I'm tired of hearing about mental health. This is morality. This is a sick culture in terms of how we think and where our souls are headed. Okay, this is a soulless culture, and it even plays out. You have these school shootings, and they talk about oh, well, these school shootings are so terrible. What's going on with people? It's funny how we're bringing up schools, because now that you mention it, let's talk about the schools, for example. Okay, if anyone's really honest with themselves and their experience with the public school education, it is the Lord of the Flies reenacted on the scale of millions. Why don't we start talking about what goes on in schools now that we're at it? Okay, who are the people running these schools? Where is the sense of building decency and character anymore within children? Uh, you had the Columbine shooting, right? Everyone references that. Everyone talks about how monstrous these kids were. But what about the fact that you have an institution created to protect and educate students? An institution that for decades has been filled with drugs and complete degeneracy, corrupting children, not teaching them anything good. But we need to take away the guns. We need to take away the guns first, right? Take away guns from all the citizens of America, and that'll stop it. Okay, right? And what's going on in the families? All right, I'm a teacher. I know what's going on in the families. All right. Well, do we have such wonderful, loving families that teach values, that teach how to be considerate, how to be empathetic, and how to go against the self, how to have a fear of God and eternal consequence? No, we don't. Okay, but we need to take away the guns. Or maybe we have a mental health crisis where we need to administer the right drugs. Even though you'll hear on these advertisements the side effects of these drugs can be homicidal or suicidal thoughts. Of course, all of these talking points involve absolutely no real education on how these things work. Okay? A lot of these shooters were on SSRIs. So why are we talking about, well, we just need a better mental health um, facilities or whatever? Okay? And so I'm just at a loss. If you actually, pop psychology is such a joke, because if you actually talk to people that know their stuff, who are experienced in criminal psychology, experienced in the courts, they will tell you that the issue of mental health does not replace evil. For example, this one right here, okay, this was a shooting that happened, and the attacker was motivated by the Joker or something. That's what he said. And he tried to plead insanity, right? He didn't get away with insanity. Why is that? Because the criminal justice system still has actual standards as to what passes for an insanity plea. They actually have a sense of evil. Okay, and there's nothing in the man's story that suggested that he was struggling to the point where he couldn't understand what was going around him. He's a cold monster, right? He is someone who just decided to make his sick, evil mark on the world. He'll be remembered for it. And then, like the coward that he was, he tried to get away with it by pleading insanity. Just typical. Um, the Aurora, Colorado shooting. I'm sure that people have already forgotten about this because we have no attention span. It's so pathetic, but that's what happened. Okay, I remember that. Um, Everyone was afraid to go to the theaters, right? James Holmes. And why are we so afraid of talking about this? Is it because it shines a light on the mentality that we've been living in? I think that's what it is. I think a lot of liberals like to pick up these easy talking points that avoid the real issues. And so we're just going to talk about some sort of government program once again, and it's really not going to cut to the point of why these things are happening. And so we have 6 schools not teaching anything about right and wrong. Instead, We teach students to be in a rat race for money and power. Boy, I'm sure making the ultimate concern being money, power, and status won't create any sociopaths, by the way. There was a time when loving God and family was above money, status, and power, but we're not in those times anymore. And now people, they don't think about right and wrong. They're too busy worrying about getting into college and getting a job. And I'm not against that. But what is going on where when people talk about right and wrong, it's so alien that you have Fruit Loops like this who will shoot up an elementary school. And then we're wondering, I wonder if there's something we could do about the guns. So we need to get our priorities straight. Okay, in criminal psychology, there's already an understanding that a criminal will usually not get mental help, and B, there's already been studies that a criminal class mind, a criminal mind, that kind of sociopathy is often found to be completely dead to any sort of effectiveness of therapy. Okay? Because they have already in their wills determined to be evil, so they don't want to get help. And many of them often make excuses and rationalizations and then continue their crimes. This is basic experiential knowledge from people who deal with criminals and sociopaths and serial killers. There is such a thing as being beyond hope when it comes to rehabilitation, psychologically speaking. It is not something that sheer cognitive science can explain. Evil cannot be explained away by this. And so we run around again and we keep wondering why this happens, and we call them insane. We call them people that have access to too many guns, but we don't talk about the fact that they are immoral people, and there was a time when this would have never happened. So you want a data point as to, well, how would morals stop this sort of thing? There was a time when our culture wasn't sick when this would be unthinkable. That's the data point. When there was a truly Christian culture, this never happened. So why are we worrying about gun control when we already have a response, which is a reform in the culture and a reform of the spirit that is already proven to be more effective? There is such an issue going on in our society that we can think and believe whatever we want to be true or to be the right thing to do, or we can lie to ourselves. Okay, so you can say, well, this is an anomaly. But the truth of the matter is, we are all drinking from this cup of selfism, of this narcissism. I do what I want. And when you do that, there's a net effect. You have to understand how mass psychology and culture works. You can say, well, these types of people are the exception to the rule. But when you have a sick culture, you encourage monsters to come out of the dark. You encourage people to be worse, and that means those that are the worst will become even worse. So, in fact, there's an actual history to this in Mexico. What happened in Mexico, like, for example, the MS-13 gangs in Guatemala, and then they eventually moved to Mexico. There's also equivalent evil gangs. And in Mexico, you had this huge cartel business going on, a lot of competition. And what happened was, because you had this culture of organized crime, the worst of the worst started to dominate because they had the most ruthless tactics. And the more ruthless you are in the criminal world, the more examples you make, the more that you show that you are not to be messed with, the better you will succeed because people fear you. So what happened was that the MS-13 gangs and those that worship Santa Muerta, and there's a lot of Satanism in these gangs now, they started ruling the roost because they would do things that the other cartels would never do. They would attack people, they would hack them to pieces. And that's why you would hear about so many horrible things happening near the border, because the most evil eventually rose to power. This is an actual thing that happens. There are war tactics of evil. A lot of people may have watched the movie Apocalypse Now, and I don't want to give it away if you haven't. But the main point of that movie, which was based off of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, which I think the movie was even better than the book. The main point of that movie was that barbarism works. It works in order to get worldly power. And the more barbaric you are, the more you can dominate people into getting what you want. So a culture of barbarism will create worse and worse people, even if the norm isn't already there. But you know what? The norm is getting there. Okay? Like I said, yes, people aren't school shooters, but many people are already in the mentality of not thinking about their neighbor anymore. Right? There's so much evidence to this. The things that are going on in the relationships between people are so horrendous that you have to wonder, well, what's going on? Did people just suddenly wake up and become awful? No, what happened was there is a void. We are raised to think, well, the purpose of my life is to become successful, not to build up others, not to do what's right, but to become successful. Whether it be for money or for publicity or for anything, any sort of pathetic TikTok trend to make views on TikTok. All of it is the same idea. It's will to power. I will self-actualize. I will become a god, essentially. I will determine my happiness and my future. And even if you could say, well, I don't believe in murder, that's obviously wrong. What you're doing is you're giving ammunition, no pun intended, to these guys. Because you can say, well, murder is wrong and people shouldn't do that. Well, where's your rationalization for that? You don't have any solid moral rationalization as to why murder is wrong. You already threw the baby out with the bathwater. You already said people can make their own happiness, that morality is relative, that and now reality is relative. Now you could be an attack helicopter, right? Too late. Too late. Too little, too late. Your weakness has created this monster. Your cowardice has created this monster. That's what we have to do if we really want to stop mass shootings. And it's not going to stop because the cat's already out of the bag. But we've got to start somewhere, folks, and stop making excuses. Another issue that I have is we have this strange thing going on with political sociopathy. And what do I mean by that? We are getting way too used to dehumanizing those that we don't agree with. Some of these shooters, if you really look into it, are radical leftists. They are people who are a special kind of monster that dehumanizes those they don't agree with. That The enemy is subhuman scum. They should be eradicated. Okay, so what do we have here? We have this dirtbag, Frank James. And of course, the media tries to brush it under the rug. He is a racist. He has been radicalized into thinking that white people are evil. That was his justification. Or we're going to say, oh, well, it's the guns. Yes, the guns made this man become evil. Give me a break. And it's not mental illness, okay? This is just hatred. We had all kinds of church shootings that happened during the last election cycle when the midterms were happening. And a lot of those were communist and anarchist inspired shootings. Now, what is going on in academia? Who are these people? These people with the audacity that call themselves professors and men of intellect, who justify murderous communism. Why is this okay? Why do we have alleged men of great minds and intellects? No, I think they're frauds, by the way. I think if you are a Marxist professor, your tenure should be taken away, and you should be probably investigated for terrorist connections. You are a fraud. You should be thrown out of the university. Okay? Anyone that supports an ideology which supports murder and destruction of people's property should not be taken seriously. Why is this okay? Where did this come from? So now we have political ideologies that justify dehumanization and evil. Boy, I'm sure that won't attract any, flies to that honey. I'm sure that won't attract any sociopaths and evil people. But that's okay. That is valid political theory in most of academia. It's such a clown show what has gone on in our culture, in our ultimate concern. We are so stupid. And that's why people are sick. Okay? I know friends of friends, and there's plenty of data, a lot of it done by Dr. Paul Vitz. You can check him out. We've talked about him a little bit on this show, but he is a psychiatrist who has created a meta model, a way of looking objectively at psychology. And most of the sickness is because people have absolutely no anchor or meaning in life other than themselves, and their easily changeable values and the little trends and the pathetic little, how many tweets I have. It's like a mockery of human existence. And that's going to create sickness, the likes of which we never had before. Previously, you at least had a sense of something of a higher purpose, whether it be God or at least the values of the country. Now we have nothing. And there was an understanding that you need these values to be happy. You need a sense of accountability. You need a sense of character, of virtue. That's what makes a man. That's what makes a woman. It's gone. We just have these fuddy-duddies. Well, when am I going to get money? When am I going to become viral and a celebrity? I want to become a miniature internet celebrity. That's true success. When am I going to get laid? Yeah, getting laid, that's what really makes the man. When am I going to get my college education? Yes, and when am I going to appease the government? That is actually the meaning of life for millions of people now. But we need to take away the guns. That's what's going to solve all of what's going on. So those that are complaining about guns will simply be the type that will be completely fodderized by the criminals who don't care about rules. And another issue going on, which many people don't want to fess up to, is we have no valid criteria, not just in academia, but in the realm of spirituality and religion. The amount of whacked out cults and new age and occult beliefs is so out of control. You should be ashamed of yourself if you think that every religion and every occult idea is equal. It's not. That's another problem we have, okay? So you can believe that, well, and I've seen this before. I've actually seen this. Well, I believe that if I kill people, I can absorb their energy and I can find enlightenment. There's actual Satanist Discord groups which believe that that's real. And Satanism is now considered a religion in particular states. And I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say, well, if a Satanist is listening, well, we do it ironically. We don't really believe in Satan. We just believe in everything that Satan stands for, and also we believe that there's no such thing as right or wrong. But we do have these Satanist creeds where, well, we don't harm kids allegedly. But well, who's how is that wrong then? You believe in Satan? Well, Satan. He also has his morality. Who told you that? Well, I don't know, man. I'm just a Satanist. Can someone please call out these clowns? Can someone please shut this down? Like, why are we allowing every weird, crooked, strange belief system into the ether, and then you put on a nice little stupid trance techno beat on some overly psychedelic video, and you say, oh well, meditate for 10 minutes on the video and you'll find your true love, and you have 6 million views here and there. Well, believe in the chakras, unlock the chakras. You are one with the universe. You should love yourself. All of this nonsense, which has absolutely no objective reality or moral code, that stops you and is beyond just what you want to believe, that challenges you, so that you won't wake up one day and think, well, I really think if I shot up white people, that then the true black Israelite nation will rise up and we will have a new utopia on earth, because I had a vision of that the black race. It's just, you see so many of these fringe groups. Now, I usually don't think fringe groups are as prevalent as people think. I think a lot of it um, is, just 10 or 20 people usually, and usually the news and media hypes it up and it's very exciting. But 10 or 20 people can do a lot of damage. They can do these things, and these sort of ideas would be thrown out. There would be real salt of the earth Christians throwing these lunatics and false prophets out, and all of this strange witchcraft and black magic stuff that that continues the narcissism. Because all of this stuff, when you really look at it, it's all about you. It's all about, well, I feel that this is how it is. I never see many of these people with these strange occult ideas believe in something that makes them uncomfortable. Have you noticed that? It's always something that makes them feel good and justifies their lifestyle. Seems a little bit suspect to me. It's like if I went out and I just started eating all the time and I became fat, and I said, well, I believe that fat is healthy. And I think because it makes me feel good, I believe that obesity is just as healthy as anything else. Oh, wait, that's already a thing. I'm sorry. So you can see where I'm going with this. We need to completely eradicate this idea that whatever goes through your stupid brain is the truth. And that's what you see in these guys, okay? They are usually very unintelligent people, and they're very arrogant people. arrogant to a degree I can't even fathom, and they are very usually just they're just monsters. They really believe that the world is for their entertainment. So that's you know, and it's only going to get worse until the neoliberal West repents for their garbage, for this garbage of you believe in your own truth. That's BS. There is no such thing as your own truth. There's just the truth. The truth is not containable or controllable by human beings. We can see it, we can try to figure it out, but it needs to be respected. And in my belief system, and I believe this is true, the truth is a person, and his name is Jesus. And you're not going to change Jesus. You can have all of the woke churches. That's another thing. Woke churches. Oh well, we kind of believe in God, but we put our own little spin on it. Okay, we don't know why our kids are screwed up. We don't know why there's mass shooters, but we have a Christianity where sin doesn't really exist. It's all good. A lot of these people that do these horrible things were former Christians. Maybe they aren't anymore, but there's communist Christians or Christians, right? So there's people that are baptized to be a Christian, even Catholic. They get radicalized and they end up murderous communists. And there's actual Christianity, or excuse me, warped abomination Christianity, anti-Christianity, certain theologies that actually justify their actions. That should be thrown out, and that should involve the Inquisition. That is death penalty. I'm starting to wonder about the Inquisition. Now, the Inquisition may have gone too far during the Spanish Inquisition times, but we're talking about ideologies that are murderous. That should be excommunication. That should be criminal charges. That should be locked up with throw away the key. That is so evil to have a communist or woke Christianity. That is an abomination of the highest order. But we're okay with it. We have a bunch of Jesuits and people that just, they just up and decide one day, well, you know what? We're just going to do what we want to do and call ourselves Christian. It's like, I really don't think they believe in God, because if anyone believed in God, they would say, I'm something like that would be thrown to the bottomless pits of hell, right? I would be afraid. I would be like, I wouldn't even dream of that. I'm like, God would be so angry with me if I did something like that here on this channel. If I started promoting something in his name that was against the gospel. So we have yet more sociopaths in the church, in the academia, in the schools. A lot of them raise children, in the media, but we need to take away the guns. And all of this is creating this net snowball effect. So just buckle up. It's just going to get worse. Your little gun control laws aren't going to stop this. The power of values and religion and philosophy, as well as the cultural pressure, does change people. It does affect people's souls. Okay, this is a historical fact. I was just watching a movie called The Northman, which has a very, I would say, semi-accurate take on the the Vikings, and these guys were a lot of them were definitely evil, right? They would enslave people, they would brutalize the populace. They were pirates, right? But they had a religion that justified it. Okay, now not all of them were like that. See, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that it's some. I'm not. Let's do away with this idea that there's no nuance here. Okay, there is right and wrong, but of course, different individuals respond to a sick culture differently. Some people stay the course. Some people still try to do good as best they can. I understand that. I understand that people still have some sense of conscience. But that's not what needed to make a society go sick. You don't need to have everyone jump on board with gassing the Jews. It starts by increments, okay? And the fact of the matter is that if you have a religion or an ideology that is murderous, it will eventually corrupt people, and it will be responsible for this sort of monster stuff happening. The Vikings had a belief system that justified dominating other people through power. Okay, they looked up to the gods of war. They believed that might made right. Not all of them. Some of them had their own take on it. Some of them didn't do that. But even if you said, well, there were some strains of Vikings who didn't do that, the Norse polytheism justified their acts. And if it didn't justify it, it didn't have any sort of concrete sense of right and wrong. So those that wanted to justify it could easily do it. And you see that within the movie. I don't know if that's the main point of the movie. It's a pretty good one. I give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's well done in terms of its art, and it definitely doesn't glamorize the Vikings or make them look like complete monsters. It kind of shows just human evil at work. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Batman. A lot of people are saying it is. I'm not really sure about it. I think it's a very well done artistic movie. Um, but it's obvious. And what happened was when the Viking people and the people of Northern Europe were Christianized, the fact remains that the violence went down. That is a fact. Now you could say a lot of people said, "Oh well, Emperor Charlemagne, he was brutal, he did bad things, the Crusades were bad." That's all true, okay? Human nature doesn't go away because of a value system change. But Christianity has a positive net effect that is obvious. You look at, let's say, Scandinavia when it was worshiping Thor and Odin versus when it became Christian, night and day difference. Okay, the pillaging stopped, the murdering and raping and the slaving stopped, and that's a known fact. Okay. Um, in the Middle East, okay, you can say, well, Islam, hey, it depends on what kind of Islam. Not all Islam is radical. That is true, but Islam is not a good bulwark. And when you actually read the Quran, it is not a bulwark against human evil, as far as I can see. And it does justify. Oh, there's interpretations. You say, well, it still has wording that definitely could be interpreted to actually dominate and subjugate those that don't, and dehumanize those that don't agree with you. And the fact is that when the Middle East went from Zoroastrianism, the last Persian Empire, I think, Ivan, you remember the name of them, right? And Zoroastrianism isn't Christianity, but Zoroastrianism was a religion that believed in right versus wrong, virtue versus vice. It was a monotheistic religion. When that was taken over and it became the Ottoman Empire, slowly but surely the gates were opened towards great evil committed against the Balkan Peninsula. Okay? That did not happen before. The Zoroastrians, well, I mean, if you actually know Persian history, they were pretty progressive people, all right? They did not treat people the way the Muslim conquerors did. And again, just shows how little thinking people are doing when it comes to evil. So we need sword control. There's too many Mongolians from the steppes of Mongolia. We need to take away all the swords and bows and arrows, and the Mongolians will just stop in their tracks. We won't need to stop them. And I do think it's stupid. I think it's totally stupid that people are trying to poo-poo the idea of armed teachers or there being more security at schools. You have these these geniuses who hate police, don't trust police. The police are just trying to keep the black man down. They're the police brutality. Okay, so let's go with that logic there. But the police are the only ones who should have guns, even though they're monsters who brutalize. Oh, okay, that makes sense, right? And then some people say, well, these are radicalized white men. And the radicalized white men are the mass shooters, which, again, there is no serious evidence towards white supremacy being the main reason as to why this is happening at all. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But even if you say that, okay, so the evil KKK are back from the dead and they're into mass shooting sprees. Even if I went with your crazy, mainstream media talking point, I don't see why that has anything to do with taking away guns from the populace to defend themselves. I mean, to me, I would want a gun if I actually believed that. If I was actually paranoid and believed that there's a surge of, I was a black person and there's a surge of murdering white supremacists shooting up schools, I'd want to have a gun. I'd want the schools to have a gun to protect my kids. So there's no thought going into this as usual, and it's just a shame. What do I think will happen because of all of this? I think what's going to happen is there is going to have to be such an outcry from the ground of the innocent blood shed, and I think it's already starting to happen. But there are people that are starting to wake up to the institutional corruption. But the other thing that's going to have to happen is there needs to be a culling. There needs to be a complete reverse cancellation. Okay, we need to cancel those that cancel. Okay, we need to cancel the gatekeepers who say, "Oh, systemic oppression." They're liars. They don't care about systemic oppression. They're a bunch of liars who want to manipulate things in order to get what they want and to distract people from the issues that actually cause systemic evil. Okay? There are some seriously sick people who are pretending to be those who say truth. I mean, you can't be more evil than someone who says, "I am the truth, and if you don't agree with me, you're evil," who then turn around and then make the matters worse and know they're making the matters worse. They should be thrown out, okay? If you really cared about systemic oppression, why don't you care about the black on black crime in neighborhoods going on, perpetrated by the welfare state and garbage public schools, run by administrators who don't give a damn? They just care about their paychecks. They don't care at all about the formation of the character of the children. Corrupt pastors who just want to sweep everything under the rug. They don't want to talk about evil. They don't want to talk about the fatherless children that are lost in crime. And there's a lot of problems with the white community, by the way. There's a big problem with the fathers being pushed out of the picture through no-fault divorce. What about that systemic oppression? Okay, because there are actual systemic-wide laws and policies keeping the nuclear family destroyed, and no one wants to talk about that. Okay, there are actual ideologies that promote murder, that promote wiping out entire groups of people that we're allowing into the public discourse unfettered. Oh, he's a communist. What a big deal. He's just another, he has the right to speak. I really don't know. There was McCarthy. Everyone hates McCarthy. McCarthy was too rough. I don't know about that. If there's a domestic enemy that believes in taking away the freedom from other people and taking away lives, that's a domestic enemy. That is an enemy to liberty and the country. That should not fall under freedom of speech. Isn't it so funny that those who are so upset about hate speech are the ones who really should be canceled? The people that are afraid of hate speech are the same people often that are okay with having a violent communist revolution and killing millions of people and throwing them in gulags. Why aren't we talking about that? Or genociding other races of people. The same people who are afraid of hate speech are okay with teaching kindergartners transgender theory and teaching white children to hate themselves in schools. The same people who are afraid of hate speech are afraid, or excuse me, they're not afraid. They're pretending to be afraid. But they are supposedly afraid of hate speech, and they are okay with censoring everyone that they don't agree with and ruining their lives. Do you guys see the real issue? Do you guys see the real issue that's really the true evil that's underneath all of the stuff we're seeing? There is a group of people that's growing, if not taking over most of the country. We're all sick. We're all tainted by selfishness. This culture has done a number on all of us. But the real monsters, many of these real monsters are people that allegedly are for freedom or for, getting along or for, safe gun control. And they are the ones that are actually pushing the monsters and giving them the ammunition with their sick way of thinking. So I don't want to hear any more about policy if we don't want to talk about the fact that we are so screwed up, we don't believe in right and wrong, and we believe in doing what we want to do over truth. So I guess this turned into a little bit more of a rant. Not much happened in the chat room. Thank you, Ivan, for dropping by, and thank you for the comment. Ivan has a lot of experience with that. It's just carnal, easy, cheap pleasure. It's not real spirituality. Okay, but so let's just stop it. Let's stop acting like there's this quick little band-aid that MSNBC can propose to us or Joe Biden or whatever. Let's get real about how messed up we have become. Let's repent. Let's return to God. And let's humble ourselves for once. Let's learn how to think, and let's remember that there needs to be a discussion about what a human person is, and that the human person is not meant to be an impulse animal, but rather someone who can feel and think and empathize and seek truth and seek virtue, and someone that will be called to answer for that when they die. After all, mass shootings or not, we're already killing millions of unborn babies every year. So just right there, all these issues that I hear people talk about, they're just puppeted by the media. Okay? That's the last denominator I want to talk about. It just seems like no matter what is popular, even the prayers of the faithful at church are manipulated by the media. We have no sense of discernment and actually being objective about what needs to be the priorities. So I know what you guys are going to do, those that are into gun control. You're going to forget about this. Next month, you're going to forget about it. You're going to be on to something else. You love it for your little attention soapbox, and nothing's really going to be done. I already know, because that's what happened last time. We've been through this, I think this is the third time we've had a gun control push that went absolutely nowhere. It didn't stop the problem. and no one is better for it. So enjoy your trust in the government, enjoy your little, Twitter claim to fame, but until these real issues will be addressed, there will be no change. So uh, that's my thoughts. Thank you for coming out, those that watched it, and please let me know what you think. Maybe there's something I missed, or maybe some value that needs to be taught, something that needs to be done in the system, in the schools, in the churches that addresses this sociopathic monster epidemic, uh, and I'll address it later. So I am back, by the way. This is a return to my show. I am over the COVID. I had it for the second time. So next Saturday, I'll get back into my usual fare, which is talking about spiritual and contemplative issues. Take care, everyone.